years ago, I picketed some restaurants in Oklahoma, but with that one exception, up until very recently, like most Americans, I expressed my support of civil rights largely by talking about it at cocktail parties, I'm afraid. But again, like many Americans this summer, I could no longer pay only lip service to a cause that was so urgently right and in a time that is so urgently now.
Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Critically Speaking. Woke or wokism is a term often used to describe a social and political awareness movement that advocates for a greater awareness of societal issues, including discrimination, systemic racism, gender inequality, and other forms of social injustice. The term woke originally emerged in African American Vernacular English, AAVE, as a slang term for being aware of social and political issues, particularly those concerning racial discrimination. In its modern usage, wokism is often employed by critics who view the movement as excessively politically correct or overly focused on identity politics. Some people argue that wokism can lead to a divisive and intolerant environment by promoting the idea that certain groups are inherently oppressed or oppressors. It's essential to recognize that different individuals and groups interpret and use the term wokism in various ways, leading to a wide range of opinions and perspectives on the movement's significance and impact. As with any social or political movement, there are proponents and critics, and discussions around wokism often involve debates about the extent to which it addresses legitimate issues or potentially exacerbates societal divisions. The understanding of the term can vary significantly based on one's political, social, and cultural viewpoints. So we must explore to what extent has the concept of wokism been adopted and manipulated by corporations, leading to the forced incorporation of cultural diversity into contexts where it may not naturally fit. In this episode, we'll explore the evolution of this phenomena and discuss practical measures to promote genuine diversity while striking a delicate balance between principles of inclusivity and contextual appropriateness. But before we get into that, if you like this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and turn your notification bell on to get the latest content and stay up to date with our channel. With that said, let's get critical. In the 20th century, African Americans used the term woke as an adjective to describe a state of heightened awareness and consciousness, particularly regarding racial issues and social injustice. The term was deeply rooted in African American Vernacular English, AAVE, and carried significant cultural and historical significance. During the early and mid-20th century, especially during the Civil Rights Movement, being woke was synonymous with being politically aware and awake to the realities of racial discrimination, segregation, and systemic oppression faced by African Americans. It signified a recognition of the need for social and political activism to bring about change and fight for civil rights. In African American communities, the term woke was often used to refer to individuals who were socially conscious, alert, and actively engaged in advocating for racial equality and justice. It highlighted a commitment to understanding and addressing the struggles and challenges faced by African Americans in a racially divided society. The concept of wokeness as a form of Black political awareness can be traced back to Jamaican philosopher and social activist Marcus Garvey in 1923. He expressed the idea in his writings, urging Ethiopia and Africa to awaken their potential and unite as powerful nations. During the same period, Black American folk singer-songwriter Hootie Ledbetter, known as Leadbelly, used the phrase "stay woke" in a 1938 recording of his song Scottsboro Boys. He advised listeners to be cautious in Scottsboro, Alabama, where 9 Black teenagers were falsely accused of rape, encouraging them to stay vigilant and aware of the situation. Over time, the term woke evolved to mean well-informed or aware, particularly in political or cultural contexts by the mid-20th century. The Oxford English Dictionary's earliest recorded usage of this meaning comes from a 1962 New York Times Magazine article by African-American novelist William Melvin Kelly discussing how white beatniks were adopting Black slang. By 1971, woke had acquired more significant political connotations as seen in the play Garvey Lives by Barry Beckham. In this play, a character emphasizes the transformative impact of awakening to political consciousness after being inspired by Marcus Garvey, and they commit to helping others within the Black community to do the same. Throughout history, the term woke has been linked to the notion of social awareness and political consciousness, particularly within African American communities, and its usage has continued to evolve and resonate with various movements and discussions about racial justice and social change. In recent years, with the resurgence of the term through social media and popular culture, its meaning has expanded beyond the African American community and has been adopted by a broader audience to refer to anyone who is socially and politically aware, regardless of their racial or ethnic background. However, it's essential to acknowledge its historical roots and the significance it held in the context of African American history and the Civil Rights Movement. In the 21st century, the term woke has become widely popular and is used in various contexts to describe a state of heightened awareness and consciousness, especially regarding social and political issues. It has been embraced as a cultural and social movement, particularly in discussions around social justice, activism, and identity politics. People who identify as woke typically support movements such as Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ+ rights, gender equality, climate justice, and other progressive causes. It is often employed to critique instances where elements of marginalized cultures are taken out of context or commodified by dominant groups. In political context, woke refers to individuals who are well informed about political issues and are critical of social and economic inequalities. It is associated with progressive and left-leaning ideologies. The term has become a meme and catchphrase in internet culture and is frequently used humorously or ironically to describe moments of realization or awareness, often in a satirical or lighthearted manner. The term wokeness has gained popularity as American left has increasingly shifted its views on various issues. This shift has been partly in response to the right-wing politics of former U.S. President Donald Trump, who was elected in 2016, and partly due to the growing recognition of the historical discrimination faced by African Americans. Washington Post columnist Perry Bacon Jr. has identified several ideas associated with wokeness, including a rejection of American exceptionalism, the belief that the United States has never been a true democracy, acknowledgement of systemic and institutional racism against people of color, awareness of white privilege experienced by white Americans, support for reparations for slavery and post-enslavement discriminations faced by African Americans, and the belief that disparities among racial groups in certain professions or industries indicate discrimination. Wokeness includes perspectives on law enforcement agencies being designed to discriminate against people of color, leading to calls for defunding, disbanding, or significant reform. Other aspects encompass acknowledging systemic sexism against women, embracing gender identity fluidity, recognizing flaws in U.S. capitalism, and viewing Trump's election not as an aberration but as reflective of prejudices held by parts of the U.S. population towards people of color. While these ideas have found increasing acceptance within much of the American left, they have remained unpopular among the U.S. population as a whole and among other, particularly more centrist segments of the Democratic Party. As woke gained popularity, some critics argue that corporations and brands have co-opted the term to appear socially conscious and inclusive for marketing purposes, a practice sometimes referred to as woke-washing. In online spaces, being woke is sometimes associated with being vigilant about calling out instances of perceived discrimination or injustice. This can lead to heated debates and controversies, with some arguing that it fosters a toxic environment of public shaming. The term woke has faced criticism from various groups who see it as overly divisive, intolerant of differing opinions, or used to stifle free speech. Some use the term derogatorily to mock or dismiss progressive ideas or activists. The pursuit of wokeness has been associated with a form of cancel culture, where individuals or ideas deemed to be problematic or offensive are immediately dismissed or silenced without room for dialogue or growth. Critics argue that this approach can stifle open discourse and promote intolerance. There is a concern that the concept of being woke can oversimplify complex social issues. Critics argue that it promotes a one-size-fits-all approach and discourages critical thinking or engaging in nuanced discussions. It can lead to a form of groupthink where dissenting perspectives are dismissed or ignored. Wokeness has also been criticized for potentially fostering division and polarization. Some argue that the emphasis on identity and social justice issues can create an us versus them mentality, pitting different groups against each other and hindering constructive dialogue and understanding. It's important to note that these criticisms do not necessarily negate the importance of social awareness or the pursuit of equity and justice. Rather, they call for a nuanced and thoughtful approach to social issues. The movement is characterized by its emphasis on acknowledging and challenging various forms of oppression, including racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, and more. Advocates of the woke movement aim to bring attention to the experiences of marginalized communities and promote inclusivity, equity, and social change. Woke activists often emphasize the intersectionality of different forms of oppression, recognizing that individuals can experience multiple layers of marginalization based on their race, gender, sexuality, class, ability, and other factors. The woke movement encourages calling out individuals or institutions perceived to perpetuate oppressive behaviors, languages, or ideologies. This can sometimes lead to public criticism and accountability. It emphasizes cultural sensitivity, inclusivity, and respectful language, promoting an environment that is welcoming and understanding of diverse backgrounds. Being woke during the civil rights movement meant being awake to the realities of racial discrimination, systemic racism, and the need for political and social activism to bring about change. It signified an understanding of the challenges faced by African Americans in a racially segregated society and a commitment to challenging the status quo.
If we will, the importance of today in my mind is that for the first time in our history, and for the first time in 100 years, the nation shows some signs of really dealing with its central problem instead of, as it has done for 100 years, avoiding it, evading it, denying it, lying about it, pretending it did not exist. The country will have to now go to work, and very hard work, very dangerous work, to change itself, to achieve this dream that Martin was talking about. And if we do not achieve this dream, we have no future at all.
The term woke was often used to describe individuals who were socially aware, alert, and actively involved in the civil rights movement. These activists played crucial roles in organizing protests, participating in sit-ins, boycotts, and advocating for equal rights, voting rights, and an end to racial segregation. Though the term may not have been as widely known or recognized as it is today, its essence during the civil rights movement embodied the very concept of social consciousness and political awakening. It was a powerful way for African Americans to convey their commitment to the struggle for civil rights and equality and served as a rallying cry for collective action against racial injustice. However, despite its positive intentions, the woke movement has faced criticism from various quarters. Some argue that it can be divisive, intolerant of differing viewpoints, or prone to performative activism where symbolic gestures replace meaningful action. Woke capitalism refers to the incorporation of social justice and progressive values into corporate branding and marketing strategies. It involves businesses adopting socially conscious messaging, supporting specific causes, and promoting diversity and inclusion to appeal to consumers and enhance their brand image. While some view woke capitalism as a positive development that encourages businesses to be more socially responsible and advocate for important issues, others criticize it for a form of manipulation or corporate virtue signaling. In recent years, many brands have invested significant amounts of money in branding, marketing, and implementing diversity, equity, and inclusion protocols. These efforts have been seen by some as attempts to align with what is perceived as a liberal agenda, which emphasizes extensive adaptation and conformity, sometimes at the expense of their core customer base. It is important to note that these actions have generated backlash from individuals who believe that these decisions prioritize a specific agenda over authenticity and artistic integrity. Critics argue that such changes are driven by a desire to conform to societal expectations rather than being true reflections of the original content or its intended message. Public opinion on these matters varies greatly, and there are differing perspectives on the extent to which brands should adapt their content or messaging to meet societal demands. Some individuals support these efforts as necessary steps towards a more inclusive and diverse representation, while others view them as forced or unnecessary changes that compromise the integrity of the original content. Critics of wokeness manipulation and woke capitalism argue that these practices can undermine genuine social progress by diluting or trivializing important issues. They suggest that companies may use these strategies to deflect criticism or distract from other problematic practices or policies within their organization. However, it is important to note that not all companies' engagement with social issues is purely performative or driven by profit motives. Some companies genuinely strive to be socially responsible and use their platforms to advocate for positive change. The challenge lies in distinguishing between authentic commitments to social justice and mere marketing strategies. As consumers, it is crucial to critically evaluate the actions and intentions of companies, holding them accountable for their practices and assessing whether their engagement with social issues align with their actual values and impacts. Striking a balance in the realm of wokeness involves maintaining a thoughtful and genuine approach to social issues while avoiding the pitfalls of performative actions or insincere motives. It is important for companies and individuals to be authentic in their support for social causes. Actions and statements should reflect genuine beliefs and a commitment to creating positive change rather than being driven solely by marketing or public relations goals. Taking the time to understand complexities of social issues is crucial. This involves listening to diverse perspectives, engaging in meaningful conversations, and continuously educating oneself about various social justice topics. A well-informed approach helps ensure that actions are grounded in knowledge and empathy. Companies should hold themselves accountable for their actions and commitments. Transparent communication about efforts, progress, and challenges fosters trust and allows for meaningful dialogue with stakeholders. Recognizing and addressing the interconnected nature of social issues is vital. An inclusive and balanced approach acknowledges that various forms of discrimination and inequality intersect and impact individuals differently. Efforts should be intersectional, addressing overlapping identities and experiences. Social issues is essential. By involving diverse voices and perspectives, companies can develop more effective strategies and initiatives that genuinely address the needs and concerns of marginalized communities. Meaningful change takes time and sustained effort. It is crucial to maintain a long-term commitment to social issues rather than engaging in short-term, superficial actions. Consistency and perseverance are key in making a lasting impact. By considering these aspects, individuals and companies can strive for a balanced approach to wokeness that promotes authentic engagement, fosters positive change, and avoids the pitfalls of performative actions or insincere motives. Underrepresented communities express a desire for authentic representation rather than superficial diversity. It is believed that simply adding diverse ethnicities to existing white characters does not provide genuine representation. Instead, we should advocate for their own stories to be told by individuals from their respective backgrounds, rather than being interpreted solely by the typical directors or producers. It is important to recognize that everyone, including white individuals, should have the opportunity to explore and celebrate their own cultural narratives. People rightfully express concerns when their folktales, histories, and novels are portrayed by ethnicities that do not have a historical connection to those stories. Respecting boundaries and understanding that there are appropriate times and places for different cultural expressions is crucial. Wokeness, when applied thoughtfully, can help create spaces where diverse narratives are celebrated and protected without infringing on the spaces of others or appropriating well-established traditions. By acknowledging and learning from the past, we can collectively work towards creating a more inclusive and equitable future where diverse stories and cultures are authentically represented. But what do you think? Have the lines been blurred, and has there been a level of manipulation in the name of wokeness? And are we taking a critical look at what people are asking for versus what people think is being asked? Let us know down in the comment section. Thanks for watching another episode of Critically Speaking. We appreciate the views, but we would appreciate you more for being conscious, at peace, and loved. Until next time, my friends. That's it for today's episode of Critically Speaking. Thanks for joining us as we explore the latest movies, games, and hot topics. Stay up to date with our latest content by hitting that notification bell. And if you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. And as always, stay critical.